Hello and welcome to Just Africa. We'll take a deep dive into the trends shaping our world. Happy Democracy Day. Now, since Nigeria's return to democratic rule in 1999, the country has witnessed significant shift, not just in political participation, but also in the expansion of economic freedoms. One of the most notable developments has been the rise of entrepreneurial activity, particularly among youth. But has democracy helped shape this trend? Today, we are discussing democracy and the rise of entrepreneurial freedom in Nigeria. I am Olumide Sokoya. I also have the beautiful, swift Aderinto.
Hi, Olumide. Good morning. Happy Democracy Day! I'm excited. I'm
Happy
African.
democracy.
I'm Nigerian. I love my country, and it's good to celebrate. How are you?
Very patriotic. I'm good. I'm good. So we're discussing democracy and entrepreneurial.
Okay.
So do you think democracy has actually helped to boost, should I say boost? Yes, boost, give rise, give freedom to young entrepreneurs?
Okay, I love to come like this. From May 29th, 1999,
Yes.
we officially became a democratically elected government. We had a democratically elected government. Of course, before then, you cannot but talk about the whole Abiola 1993 June saga. We have to talk about the fact that military people came in and for a long time. And so entrepreneurism in Nigeria was, it was very downplayed. To be an entrepreneur in Nigeria at that time, you had to have a military reliance, or you were a military officer's wife. In fact, you couldn't even have a big supermarket if you did not know one officer or the other. And now, looking at 1999, suddenly, we had by 2000, I think 2003, the government then, that was under Olusegun Obasanjo, came up with the small-scale SMEs, came up with the organization to monitor entrepreneurs, small-scale enterprise. 2009 came up with the CIA, that's where you could register your business, CSC, thank you, officially, that's the corporate office. So at this point, it was just telling Nigerians that, look, you can own a business, you can legalize your business, you don't need to know anybody in court. Now, if you're looking at Nigerians' political system and entrepreneurism, right now I can run a business without knowing anybody. I can run a business and wake up one day and come from the UK and start my business. One of the biggest entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs we have, because I'm very female inclined, we have Dr. Brown, who has her own air ambulance. So she picks you up if you are sick and she can transport you out of the country. Necessity was born when her younger sister, she and her younger sister, they were born in the UK. They came to Nigeria for the first time for holiday, and her younger sister fell ill, and there was no way to transport her back to the UK to receive first-class medical services in court, and she died in Nigeria. So as a medical doctor, she told herself, look, I'm not just going to be a medical doctor, I want to meet a need. Now, during the military administration, you cannot just meet that need. You may have the idea, but you saw people running back. So we saw a brainwave thing going back to Europe. But now we are seeing people leave Europe and come back to Nigeria with ideas and say, look, the government would support, we can build. So I think the democracy has been a plus to entrepreneurship in Nigeria and development, because entrepreneurs bring development.
True.
Yes. They claim that our GDP, entrepreneurs make up about 75% of what the Nigerian GDP is. Because you're looking at that woman selling on your street, from that woman selling on your street.
The hairdresser, the makeup artist.
Yes. They also tell you that the multinationals don't hire, they don't train. So you look at somebody coming in, let me use a Shell, for example. A Shell will not train you from the start. It is someone who has worked in a technical place, who we have trained as Africans. They will just bring in they will bring in the, they say, what they call them, the expatriates. God bless you. They'll bring them in. And so they won't really train, they'll just put you. So if you want a training, it means that you need to build yourself. And so that's where the small-scale businesses come in. They build the people that are later recruited by the entrepreneurs, the big multinationals. So the entrepreneurship system in Nigeria has not just helped to develop the country's GDP, it has also helped to build and professionalize people. So I feel that without democracy, there will be no entrepreneurship. So they work hand in hand.
What about the challenges and limitations? You know, if you look at democracy, yes, it's not it's not a success. That's not been success, 100% success. But I always say this: we are evolving. I don't like to call ourselves third world.
Yes.
We are evolving. We are moving higher because countries, China and the rest of them are coming. They are bringing business. They are investing. If this land is not, fruitful, if it's not green, we will not have all these international countries eyeing Africa, which means we have a whole lot to offer in Africa. But there has been also challenges. We have corruption, we have bureaucracies, we have inconsistent policies. Yes, this present government, they are actually trying. President Tinubu has brought out different policies. Yes, some might say, oh, this policy was not well thought out, this policy was not well planned. Was not well implemented.
Yes, it's harsh.
He is up there. He cannot bring out a policy and start policing everybody, all the MDAs, all the ministries, and say, oh, what are you doing? He has to elect to his own best knowledge people he believes are well qualified. It is now left for those people, the ministers and the directors, to make sure that all these policies are well implemented. So we've had inconsistent policies. We've also had, security challenges and all that. But, it's not stopping. I remember when, during the former administration of President Buhari, when he said the youth are lazy. He was quite...
It was quoted out of context. I always have to say that. Okay. Yes.
It was but, that also... inspired the youth to come out to say, no, we are not actually lazy. We are hardworking. I mean, most youth these days, they are not so inclined to the blue-collar, industry jobs. They believe they want to get out of university and start off their own. They believe in just, though there's also this drive to make money at a very young age. They believe you have to be established by 25.
No, because you have to stand on your own
house,
2 feet.
2 cars and all that, be married by 25, that is also there. But I like the drive that Nigerians have. If you take Lagos, for instance, Lagos, the hustle drive is phenomenal.
It's a city that never sleeps. What do you expect?
It's phenomenal. Everybody's just looking for an opportunity to make money, to do something. If there's a need, there's always an opportunity.
I like that. If there's a need, there is always an brilliant.
So that is one of the things I like this country for. And democracy, like you said, has actually helped. With the establishment of CAC, Smedan, Bank of Industry, and all that. This have been created out of democracy. Democracy is actually government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Everything. And if you notice, people is being mentioned in all this, which means it cares about the people. It's about the people. Let's come together. What would help us? What will make us go forward? And I like this president. He has a listening ear. He's always coming out. Anytime there's a need, anytime there's something going on, he will come out and address the nation, which is expected also to do today at the National Assembly.
Yes.
So he's a listening president. And he has also said it that bring all your problems to me. I took this job. I know the rudiments of the job. I know what it was going to cost me, and yet I still went head on. So, democracy has actually paid off if you look at it.
Yes, but at this point, I want to talk about a twist. So there's a twist from the older generation who claimed that, look, under the military government, there was, people's freedom was trifled and all that, but we developed the brightest brains Nigeria ever saw. The president you're talking about, who people said, oh, he was almost too old to rule. He has come up with some of the best economic policies that Nigeria has ever seen. In fact, World Health Organization, IMF, they are praising his policies. All over Europe, they are saying, look, these are brilliant policies, and these strategies, if they are followed through, we will see Nigeria standing up. By 2013, Nigeria's economy was said to be the largest in Africa. So he means, like you said, a lot of people are coming because we have a lot to give. But now the twist that is saying that during the military era, we saw more brains, we saw more doctors that were revolutionizing the system. We saw architects come out and build buildings that till today. So for example, this building we are in, the NECOM building, 32 floors. Nobody has been able to build something higher. Something more. If you actually, you need to come to Lagos and visit the NECOM building where our studio is. It is made of brick. Now we are seeing architects build houses that are collapsing. Is it that the military era fostered or built in us the resilience to be better than the democratic era? Is it a soft life thing?
Well, during the military, most of these buildings were built by our colonial masters and, and all that. So, but then again, I wouldn't say the military era brought out the best. Do you understand? Because there's a saying that yesterday should not be your best.
Yes.
We should always, aspire to be greater. And we've had other people that have come out and have, achieved great height. Even though one name I like to mention, but people are not so happy, is Kemi Badenoch, but people are not so happy to it. But we also have the Okonjo Iwealas.
Yes.
We have a lot
military era.
Okay.
Dora Kuili, military era.
We have the Anthony Joshua.
Even our very own Oshomole, who has revolutionized the those states from road network, military era. I'm just saying. But of course, we have younger people who are doing fantastically well. Olumide, let's do this.
All right, so never mind our bantering. Our topic for today is democracy and the rise of entrepreneurial freedom in Nigeria. And our guest is Mr. Adetunji Banwo, founder, chief executive officer of Banwo Consulting Limited, Nigeria, and Proshap United Kingdom Limited. It's so glad to have you. Happy Democracy Day.
Thank you, Olumide. Thank you, Swift. Thank you for having
me. I like your outfits. Very, democratic.
Patriotic.
Yes, patriotic.
I thought to take a cue from you. White and green, and just touch on white and green. Proudly Niger.
Proudly, yes.
All right, so let's set the stage. I know we often, link democracy to political rights, but we often link democracy to political rights, but do you think it's directly influenced by economic freedom, especially small businesses and startups in Nigeria?
Sorry, I didn't catch the start of your question. Yeah.
Let me take it again. Now, we often link democracy to political rights, but do you think it is directly influenced, or it directly influenced economic freedom, especially for small businesses and Nigerian startups?
Oh yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I never subscribe to sentiment whipped by some quarters that the military era was better than, military is better than, the democratic era. That's probably coming from some persons that don't really understand history. When you talk about freedom, there's nothing compared to freedom. I'm a strong believer in the fact that the worst of democratic era is still better than the best of the military era. Freedom, you can't take that away. So freedom is not just manifesting itself in terms of freedom of rights, your right to life, and freedom of speech and all that. Even economic freedom, your ability to express your dreams and your desires, and without fear or favor. So it actually goes a very, very long way. It looks like our minds were just exploded, at the advent of democracy. I mean, let's take leaning from one of the the oldest if not the oldest democracy, the USA, and look at the birth of entrepreneurs. You see what I'm talking about? So there's a connection between having a democratic setting and the fact that people are able to express themselves. I mean, people were suppressed during the military era. You get what I'm trying to say? People were suppressed. I mean, are we saying the likes of Aliko Dangote had not been around since the military era? They've been around, but look at the explosion, in terms of their business that they've experienced thanks to institutions, democratic institutions. So these things, they go a very, very long way. It's not just politically, but then even economically, you have that freedom to express yourself, to do things. I mean, look at how social media has actually helped to shape a lot of businesses. You see what I'm talking about? Some of those things that we, right now, you're able to, to go online, to go on social media, to boost your, look at the rise of influencers, for example. I mean, you're trying to build any brand right now, you definitely need social media influencers to help you boost your, your brand and all that. But would you have expected some of these social media influencers to thrive during the military era, and it's an absolute no. You get what I'm trying to say? I'm just trying to picture how that would have. It's so suppressed. I mean, but give you an instance, right? The use of WhatsApp, for example, there's still certain countries where WhatsApp is still, will I say, heavily regulated. It's not like there's anything bad in regulating it, but it's heavily regulated. Like, try making a video call to anybody you know in the UAE, for example, right? Because I've got a younger brother who is based in Dubai, and you just can't do a video call. He's got to initiate, I think, VPN or thereabout, like, so that's ability to communicate. You see what I'm talking about? It goes a long way, because that society is not democratic. They are not a democracy. It's a monarchical system. You see what I'm talking about? So if you're looking at the proportion of entrepreneurs globally, you're not going to find so much of them in some of those Gulf countries. I'm just trying to say there's a connection. You see what I'm talking about? Communication and business expansion and business entrepreneurship in general, because you need to express yourself. So those things, they actually go hand in glove. So I totally subscribe to the fact that democracy, the rise of democracy and the spread of democracy has really helped to foster entrepreneurial freedom. Definitely, you're able to showcase yourself. You're able to to actually to try things, to experiment, and then because of all the institutions that we have set in place, they're actually able to help grow various businesses, SMEs and all that. We didn't have all that during the military era, no. I mean, as young as I was there during Babangida era, Abacha, and some of those eras, I can't remember. So it's a lot of a lot of the businesses that were really doing so well were military, were government contractors. People doing businesses with the government, and all that. You don't really find like the likes of Tony Elumelu and some of these great business giants that we have right now, because the room wasn't there for them to thrive. So that was, I mean, that's really the connection I can draw. So there's just that correlation. There is a correlation between the spread of democracy and entrepreneurial freedom.
All right, thank you so much, Tunji. I totally agree with you. I remember Concord newspaper owned by Moshood Abiola, when the newspaper was seen to be speaking the truth, and the military administration closed that newspaper, and that was one of the legacies that Nigeria had in the media. Still talking about your question, some people have argued that policies from the government it takes a while to trickle down to SMEs, and this affects entrepreneurs. So the government has a good policy, has a good plan, but due to political bottlenecks, it takes a while. And I know you're an entrepreneur and you have tried to do some things in Nigeria and Africa. Do you agree?
100% Swift. Wow, this is... I'm going to try not to take this personal, because I've been on the short end of the stick when it comes to impact of government policies, or lack of it, or lack of implementation. Like I've mentioned previously on your program, I've been an entrepreneur almost all my life. Like, from my teenage years, I've been I've been running one form of business or the other, and I've actually evolved even as an entrepreneur. So a lot of government policies. Like they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't think any well-meaning government, any government at all, would actually intend to make their citizens suffer. I don't think it's not. I mean, it just doesn't add up. So why would, for example, the policies being introduced, the environment, right? Why would it be making business uneasy for people? You see what I'm talking about? So it's all down to the fact that it's cultural. You see what I'm talking about? Cultural. One of the things I found out is what corruption has eaten deep into the fabrics of our society. So that is a very, very big one. So when you have something happen at the top, the person at the top maybe is the president or the minister or the governors. This is their direction, this is their strategy, this is their vision. They want to achieve this, they want to make life better for the citizens. But by the time it gets to those that are going to implement it, I tell you, it's a different ball game. it's a different ball game. So it's something that we need more of. We need more people to speak about it. We want more dialogue. We want more partnership between the private and the public sector. We want more what do you call it, town hall forums where they can actually hear. So one of the things the government can really do is regular sessions, stakeholders forum. So it happens a lot, in the UK, for example. My big sister also happens to be an entrepreneur. She's employed 20 25 British citizens in their business. They run a chain of stores. And I tell you, one of the things they do quarterly, I think it's quarterly, or about monthly or quarterly, but let's say quarterly. The government invites them, the Minister for Economy, the Department for Business and all that, they invite them for regular what do you call it, breakfast, like luncheon and all. So, and they would have to pay a token to even attend such meetings. And those are the avenues where you actually hear directly from the horse's mouth. They tell you what are our challenges. These are our bottlenecks. If you can help us with these importation barriers, if you can help us, we want to create more jobs, but these are our bottlenecks. So that kind of forum can actually help bridge that gap between your strategy and implementation. Because according to Brian Tracy, culture will eat strategy for breakfast. You see what I'm talking about? You have this strategy, but then the people that are really going to implement it, they are not in tune with the person that have that vision. So we need to break down that barrier. We need to make it rather hierarchical or bureaucratical. We need to make it flat. You see what I'm talking about? Where I can see the Minister for Economy face to face, the Wale Eduns of this world. I can meet with them, have lunch, have that meeting, and ask questions and tell them these are the challenges we are facing as SMEs. Access to capital, for example, is there, and then even infrastructural challenges. So one of the things I would like to bring to such forums would be, I want to, for example, site my business in one remote part of, Ogun State or, your state. But then how do I get my goods from that location to the city, to the market? That's where routes comes in, right? So what if I decide to build the road? What incentives do I get from the government? So those are the kinds of conversations we should be having, rather than lamenting over, oh, there's poor infrastructure, there is this. I mean, a lot of businesses in Nigeria, in spite of the challenges, they are thriving. I know big businesses where they've decided to generate their own electricity to the point where they are now even able to sell part of it to the neighboring, or give part of it to the supply neighboring communities. You see what I'm talking about? So electricity already overcome. What else? Roads. What about you think of the the Dangotes of this world that would decide to even construct the roads and then get tax waivers? That's the kind of conversation we have. We want to have. Road taken care of. What else? Water. You see what I'm talking about? So how about building that reservoir where we can? But then it's a two-way street. If the businesses are willing to help fill in the gap for the infrastructural deficit, what's the government going to give in return? You see what I'm talking about? It should be a two-way street. It's quid pro quo. That's it. So I'm giving something. We are willing to go the extra mile. Nigerian entrepreneurs are really trying. I tell you, we struggle a lot with so many things. One of the biggest challenges with even with banks. You see what I'm talking about? So making it sure that businesses are able to access funds, and then developmental, setting aside such platforms. I can give you an instance.
All right, Mr. Adetunji Banwo, if I may come in. Democracy has produced truly dividends. I think one of the highlights of former Olusegun Obasanjo's administration was the introduction of global satellite mobile telecommunication, the GSM. That was one of the highlights of his administration. It was a major breakthrough for us, and it brought about the Wale Adenuga empire that introduced per second billing. Now, the old folks, I want to put you on the spot a bit. The old folks, one of the arguments during the military era that comes up, I think among the Generation X or the old folks, is that our currency was much more powerful during the military era than now. In fact, there was a time the naira was even much more powerful than the dollar. What would you say to this? How would you react to this?
Well, with all due respect to the older generation, I'm kind of confused right now. Maybe I'm mid-generation or new generation, but definitely I'm not Gen X or Gen Z, definitely far from it. So we're kind of in between. With all due respect to them, the economy wasn't, we wouldn't say, for example, that our lives were better back in the days, growing up in the 80s and all that. But I wouldn't say so. What has simply happened is there's now more mouth to feed. So if you compare our population back then to the population now, it's not, it's grown exponentially, so you had fewer mouths to feed, you had, fewer persons to take care of back then compared to now. So that has, actually, quadrupled our problems. So it wasn't so much about the fact that the currency, yes, you can say for a fact that the currency was more stable then, but if you look at all the micro and macroeconomic factors we had back then, they are not the same thing as what we are dealing with right now. You've had series of wars right now, ongoing political instabilities happening, globally and even geopolitically, across the in the West African region with insecurity. I mean, growing up, I never heard anything like around bomb blast. For example, the only kind of bombs we get to see was in movies, watching Rambo and what do you call it, Schwarzenegger, and these guys throwing bombs in their movies and all that. I mean, but imagine, I think the first one was now Madala bombing United Nations House or thereabouts in Abuja. So, these challenges, has actually, exacerbated, the problems we've got in Nigeria. So those are the things you get to factor, but you look at the fact that you have now more, I can bet you that we have more billionaires, right, and millionaires in Nigeria of today than maybe like some 20, 30 years ago. You see what I'm talking about? So how has this happened? You can link it even to democracy. Yes, you can link it to some of the initiatives of the government. Fine. I mean, I know we also have some critics would also have things to say like, what about the number of people, that have slid into poverty, multidimensional poverty, and that's, where the government. So we need to have that balanced conversation. So it's not so much about, things have gotten better or things have gotten worse, but it's also just to look at, all the indices, population indices, the GDP and all that. But for me, really, I feel it's all about planning, really. It's all about having the numbers for us to plan with, because I'm a stickler for data. So we need to have the right data to plan with. For example, look at our borders. The borders are so porous that I read it in one of these a recent book that I read. And he says, yeah, I think the book is Breaking Point, by one leading voice, one of the leading voices in the journalism space in Nigeria. Breaking Point said you could literally just walk through the so imagine if you're wanted in Nigeria, you could literally just walk through the semi border, without anybody even detecting anything. That's how porous the border is. So, an adding criminal, someone that commits crime in Nigeria could literally just walk out. The same way you can have someone commit crime in another country and just literally walking through the borders. So that needs to be fixed. I know we have so many borders over, hundreds of, borders and all that. So it's so exposed. So that alone, the infusion of people, immigration and all that, it needs to be checked. So that again has also put a pressure on our public services. You see what I'm talking about? The same roads that we've had. Take, for example, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, which is one of the major truncated roads we have in the country. Think about those roads where, people were using to move, goods from Lagos to other parts of Nigeria. The size of that road, compared to what we had maybe some, several years, about, decades back, has it really increased compared to the population growth? So transportation, you see what I'm talking about? So the available infrastructure to support the growth in businesses, in population, there's just a mismatch. That is what I think has happened. So it's not so much about the fact that life was better then than now, but it's just the fact that it's like a family, a family, where
All right. Adetunji Banwo, last question in less than a minute. Now, do you think entrepreneurship itself, can help strengthen democracy? Maybe creating a more independent and, of course, economically powered citizenry. And what advice would you give young professionals, young tech startups who want to start something but feel discouraged by the whole economic policies and all that?
Wow. Great question, Olumide. All my advice to I'm going to say the younger version of me, right, would be that imagine if I was starting, this all over again. What would be the advice, I would really appreciate anybody giving me, would be you need to start local but think global. See that? Start local but think global. In spite of, so you need to look at your present. So you do what you call your SWOT analysis, your PESO, which is what's my present environment, what's it like, and so you also need to look beyond your your current state, which is where you are, where are you starting off from, but then you're also looking at how do I, for example, scale up? How do I go, take these, globally? So that's what I think we should be. Any young, young startup should be looking at, and you should also. Sorry, I think there's a technical glitch. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, sorry, we can hear you. Just continue.
All right, perfect. So what I'm going to advise is you need to have that foresight. You need to be looking at how can you leverage on technology, for example, leverage on technology. And to be able to, AI, for example, is shaping a lot of things. Thanks to the internet. So some businesses, if only businesses like Aliko Dangote and some of these businesses that we know, the Flutter Waves. So imagine if they had the kind of infrastructure available today when they started off, they probably would be way 10 times bigger, at least than where they are right now. So
this has been such a rich conversation, Mr. Adetunji Banwo. You have actually given us, a lot about how democracy, with its flaws, has still created room for innovation, business, and, of course, personal freedom. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That's quite been a lot. I wanted to even mention a whole lot of things that, that's why I had to mention what you call it, the GSM, the introduction of GSM. We've had a whole lot of other things that have sprung out as a result of
the GSM alone revolutionized the economy of Nigeria.
And with this, I will call it a wraps on Just Africa this morning. Thank you very much for staying with us. If you have enjoyed the program, why not join us again? Also, you can follow us on all our social media platforms at Sook News Television. If you love this Just Africa, please follow us, like, and share. I am Olumide Sokoya. Once again, happy Democracy Day.